Hey, this is Slink with Stratos Corporation, EVE Online. This is part 2 of the video I'm doing about clones and death clones, jump clones, the whole bit, and medical clones. So picking up where I left off last time, this character has now trained to infomorph psychology, I think it's called, 3, which allows them to install 3 jump clones, which makes a total of 4 versions of themselves. They have flown to the different stations with that NPC Corp and installed those 3 clones, and now has started to fly the various different clones around the universe, and in intervals of at least 24 hours has jumped back and forth and so on. So picking up from there, I'd like to kind of cover how, I'll just kind of go through how Slink has his clone configuration set up. And I'll leave it to you to adjust or adapt to that however you like, but I figured I'll use this as an example. So now let's look at those 4 clones. For this illustration, it doesn't matter where they are. The point is I have 4 of them, and each clone has its own set of implants. So if clone A has +4 implants, clone B has a certain whatever implants, clone D has 0 implants. Each clone has its own implants. So a lot of why this is important is so that we can manage our risk when we PvP. So the way I have Slink currently configured right now is he has his high set clone. His high set clone has currently +4 stat implants, which I may soon be taking to +5s. He's also got slots 6 through 10 set up for PvE missioning and whatnot. That clone roughly costs 200 million. The last thing that I'd want to get blown up in PvP. The next 2 clones are an interesting way to mitigate your risk during PvP while not totally killing your training queue. If you notice, as you are training your skills, the attribute associated with training is always paired. It's either intel memory or it's perception willpower. They might be reversed as far as what's primary, what's secondary, but it's always in those pairings. So you'll find that when you're training your skills, if you, let's say, have a spaceship command skill in your queue for the next 16 days, the +3 implant for perception and the +3 implant for willpower is actually affecting that training schedule. Even if in that clone you had +3 intel, +3 memory, even if you had all 4 of those implants in that head, in that clone, the other 2 aren't really doing you any good right now. The ones that you care about are the 2 that apply to the skill that you're currently training. So, and normally you're training, skills that take the days, not hours anymore, pretty early on. For this reason, you can have 2 different clones and half the difference. So what I do is I have, again, my high set clone that has, the super expensive clone. +3 implants cost 10 million or so each. So I just basically put, even in the ones that I PvP in, and you may not want to go to this expense or risk. I personally, I'm fine losing another 20 million implants so I don't screw my training time while I'm PvPing. So I basically take my one of my 2 PvP clones, and I have a +3 intel and a +3 memory in one, and then I have another PvP clone that I have a +3 perception, +3 willpower in the second one. For those of our newer players who may not quite have the money to do that or want to risk the money to do that, I'd probably recommend that you do the same thing, just kick that down to a +2. Maybe your high sec clone is a +3, full +3s, and then maybe your 2 PvP clones is +2s. If you're using EveMon though, and you look at how much time you're saving running +3 implants on the right skills, you're looking at about 10%, and that adds up over time. So I'd recommend coming up with something. Figure out what level of ISK risk you want to put when you're PvPing, and configure something like this. So again, just to make sure we got it covered well, these 2 clones are the clones that I PvP in. They're the ones that I really don't mind too much being in. It's not totally screwing my training queue, but the way I've got this configured, at any given point, if I get blown up, I'm really only eating about 20 mil worth of implants. And if you go with +2, you're probably bringing that down to 4 or 5 mil worth of implants. So then my final clone is an absolutely empty clone. And the value of that, if we go back to the death clone concept, is anytime I want to go someplace that I don't want to travel to, or I have some work that I want to jump back and forth across the universe or whatever, I can choose to jump into my trash clone for the next 24 hours. Yes, I'm stuck in it, and I get, I don't get any bonuses to my training time because it's got no implants, but it does have the advantage of this guy. I can, going back to the other illustration, this guy I can go into Station 1. I can, set my distant clone, jump out, blow myself up, wake up in another station, do something there, jump across the universe back and whatnot, utilizing the preset offices that we've rented throughout the universe. So anyway, that's pretty well a summary of how it works. I'm trying to think if there's any details I have missed. Nothing's really coming to mind. I know this is a little confusing. You might, if you're interested in this subject, and I think it's a fairly important subject to be understanding, feel free to watch this a couple of times. Oh, one other thing I'll mention, and you want to, anytime you're jumping or death cloning or whatever, stop, take a breath, get a checklist, go through it, slow, steady. You don't be in a hurry when you're messing with this kind of stuff, because they're great tools, and with a little bit of caution, they work just great. But at the same time, you don't want to make an error. The last thing you want to do is death clone, forget to upgrade your clone, and lose skill points. One of the things to watch out for, and I am 90% sure on these mechanics that this is how it works, and I personally just never want to risk it to test it. But as I understand it, let's say you had a Jump Clone C installed in Station 1, and you also set your medical clone to Station 1 as well, then flew out and got killed. If you do that, there is a possibility that when you wake up, I've read some stuff that you can wake up, you can basically destroy, you lose a clone and you lose the implants in it. So just as a general policy, make sure you never set your medical clone to the station which you have a jump clone installed. And again, if you have one at a station that you want to have a medical clone, it only takes a little bit to jump to it, move it out, jump back 24 hours later, and then this is the station that's used. So typically, maybe a system away or something, you can position your clones before jumping so that they're never at a station that you're going to want to use as a medical facility. So that one, and like I said, I've read that. I haven't tested it. I don't want to test it. I don't want to find out. I just, it's a fairly easy thing to avoid, so I just don't do it. So I can't think of anything else. I'm going to go ahead and cut this off here, and feel free to catch me in game if there's anything that's confusing, or you want clarification on anything or something I didn't cover. Thanks a lot. See you in game.